What is up, you sexy little YouTubey tinkers? It's time for another walk and talk with me. I haven't got time to sit and edit slick punk politics videos all the time, every day. So today you're just going to get a little walk and talk from me. I want to talk about the state of the world economy. You ready? Things are about to get a bit bleak. So grab yourself a beer or roll up a doobie, whatever it is that you need to cushion the blow. That little spoonful of sugar to help this medicine go down. Are you ready? So we often talk about what could get better and whether we have any faith in the direction that the country's moving politically, economically. My faith is basically on the floor. You know, like I feel like there's some changes I would like to see implemented that I think would be of net benefit to the UK. Proportional representation. I think you would see less authoritarianism. I think you would see the winding down of xenophobia and a more honest conversation about the state of our economy and debt if we had proportional representation. I also would like to see the other PR, press regulation. I think that would be of net benefit to the UK also. And I don't need to waste another 10 or 20 seconds of airtime explaining why. I mean, it's largely the same reasons. I think we would have a more honest conversation between us, the politicians, if newspapers weren't so hyperbolic and hysterical all the time. But when it becomes a conversation about what we can realistically expect from the future, like, where are we headed? Well, then that is when I get off the optimism bus. Like, sometimes I think people get a bit drunk on Elon Musk. They get a bit swept away in sci-fi fiction and culture and books and movies. What if a robot takes my job? Elon's gonna take us all to Mars. That's why I pay for Twitter Blue. Like, you may have twigged this about me from the name of my podcast, which is about, disappointments and being a bit sort of morose, sullen, melancholic. But I tend to look at things glasses half broken. And I think when it becomes a conversation about where we're headed, I think it's less about us living in spaceship cities and robots and moving to Mars. And honestly, it's more about, the likelihood that we are, to my mind, significantly more likely to end up in a wound down civilization in a sort of post-apocalyptic nightmare. I just think that's more likely. Now, the reason that I think that is because if you look at the state of the UK economy, right, we can get onto the world economy in a minute. The state of the UK economy, so it's over 100% of GDP is allocated to debt, right? That means for all the economic output that the UK produces as GBPLC, that figure equates to less than the amount that we are in debt. And that means the only way that they can really invest in things like public services, new initiatives, development programs, is if they slowly wind down existing spending commitments. And that means pensions, welfare, the NHS, education. Like, they can't hope to pay off that debt unless they start making cuts elsewhere. And because the interest payment on those debts is becoming more and more expensive, then the UK credit rating is getting lower and lower and lower. And then that makes more borrowing more expensive still. So in time, you're going to see more cuts, more savage cuts. Now, you can call it what you like. You could call it, fiscal responsibility, getting your house in order, balancing the books, austerity. But whatever it is that you call it, however you term it, the reality is that actually what we're looking at there is a gradual winding down of civilized society. You're going to see less public services, or the ones that you do see are going to be worse and worse quality. They're going to see fewer and fewer people. And this isn't just a UK specific problem, right? If you look at the rest of the Eurozone, everyone is suffering from this sort of muted, stunted growth. We've just sort of reached a point as a civilization, as a species, where we've hit the glass ceiling for how many products we can produce, how much we can churn out for the number of people there are in the Eurozone and in the wider world, based on the fossil fuels and the natural resources that we have to make them from, versus the price that people are willing to pay for these things. So even an economy like China, which is, still has some resemblance to growth, if they're just making products for Brits and Americans and German people to purchase, you'll start to see their economy slow down and become muted and stunted also. And the sort of dystopian, apocalyptic behaviors that you're going to then see exhibited are going to be a sort of, a greater desperation for the few natural resources that there are. Ergo, more Middle Eastern wars. There was a World Economic Development report that came out about 3 or 4 years ago highlighting untapped oil and gas reserves in and around Gaza. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that the reason that you're seeing military activity in that area is because that is a propped up Western government tearing into the region to extract what they need to, like a heroin addict raiding a house for cash to service their addiction. I'm not suggesting for a moment that that's what's happened, but it is interesting, isn't it? So what you will probably see is a greater desperation, more military activity for the few resources that remain, a winding down of public services that working people rely on, and as the rich, or mostly rich, people in power who have their hands on the levers begin to also feel the pinch, you're going to see more, frankly, like just mean-spirited, greedy measures coming in. And I'm sure you're going to see this on the world stage too, but just locally, domestically, within the UK, we're already seeing the first sort of green shoots of that now, by way of even the discussion of getting rid of inheritance tax and paying for it by taking away people's free prescriptions. And if that little transaction is of interest to you, check out yesterday's Punk Politics video where I sort of went into it a little bit more satirically. Anyway, that's it for this one, guys. Do leave me a comment below and let me know if you have any faith whatsoever. Do you think we're going to end up living on Mars, or living in spaceships? Everybody enjoying a domestic robot slave doing all of their unpleasant work, cleaning their toilet? Or is your faith on the floor like mine?